comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's do what else.
Oh, buck up, little camper.
Filmmaking is not about the tiny details, it's about the big picture.
Just another American who saw too many movies as a child.
And now, on with the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to After the Film. Today we are 18 years after the film. We're going to be talking about The Truman Show.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
Let's get some basic review stuff out of the way. Great performances. This is really a career-making role for Jim Carrey. Laura Linney's great. Noah Emmerich's good. Ed Harris is amazing with what few minutes of screen time he gets. The score is interesting. I wanted to mention the guy's name. Where is it? Burkhard von Dalowitz. Don't know the guy. I was actually surprised it was someone I hadn't heard of. Because the score has to be like deliberately manipulative and sound like it's being manipulative while also affecting the audience of the film, which is an interesting setup. Had to be hard, and it works. Interesting things in the movie. Because everything's a TV show, you get product placement, which is really funny.
Contractor, no. I will not bow to any sponsor.
You get people... Well, we'll come back to this, but you get people talking to each other a lot more than they probably would in reality. Everyone's saying good morning, everyone's saying hello, people knowing each other's names. The name thing actually becomes a problem at one point in the movie, but it's not that big a deal. We won't talk about that. The movie is set in Sea Haven, which is a made-up town built inside a dome, made to look like a little isolated island on the coast so that it's hard to get away from there. Truman has been manipulated into being afraid of the water and to now distrusting travel. There's an amazing poster when he goes to the travel agent that says, like, travelers beware. And it has a list of terrorists, diseases, wild animals, street gangs. And then there's a poster of a plane being struck by lightning. It's like they want to create this isolationist feel in Truman. Sea Haven, of course, was the big external shots of the city are filmed in Seaside, Florida, which was a planned community built all at once. And so it looks like a TV set would if someone built an entire town. Everything's new, everything's white, everything's shiny. But it's real. They changed some names. They have streets named after Lancaster and Barrymore, like named after actors. They have main characters named after actors. Meryl, Marlon, Lauren, Marmacall, yeah. A lot of the stuff is these references to TV. Even Truman himself, his last name is Burbank. Because Burbank, California, big movie town. Something I was actually wondering, rewatching the movie recently, is whether or not Truman understood what television was. Like in the first little bit of the movie, I'm wondering this. And I'm thinking, like, what context does he have for the idea of television, the idea of movies, the idea of people watching other people do things? And then they actually make a point of him watching television at one point in the movie. I'm like, I think it would have worked better if he hadn't. He sits down to watch, I think I Love Lucy is just ending, and there's a movie on called, and I love this title, Show Me the Way to Go Home. Like, even that, his favorite movie, which he's probably been manipulated into having it as his favorite, because it's probably one of the only movies he's ever seen, is all about going home, being home. Peter Weir, the director, had this idea I don't know when it came up, but they never were able to do it because it would have been impossible, basically, of putting a camera in the theater at screenings. And during the film, would actually cut to the camera feed of the audience watching it. And so it'd be the audience watching the audience. And it would produce this sort of feedback loop that the movie itself creates. And that's one of the big topics I want to get to, but first I want to talk about characters. Big one for me. Laura Linney's character, Hannah, or Meryl, as Truman knows her, has been playing Hannah every day for years. I don't know if they ever... No, they do say, I was going to say, I don't know if they don't say how old Truman is, but they say it's day 10,909, which I think someone did the math. It means he's near 30 years old. They met in college, which, assuming the fictional version does school and college as it does for most people in this country, means they've been together for at least, say, 5-6 years, and as much as 10. She's been playing his wife for 5 to 10 years. And I'm wondering about the reality of this, because she doesn't seem personally invested, which is weird. She seems more like someone playing a part, and I would think, kind of like the end of the film, that Christoph, Ed Harris, Truman's creator, as it were, is really invested in Truman. He doesn't want him to go. This is his life. I would think that a lot of the main characters in Truman's life would be just as personally invested. Even if they're not on set on a particular day, like his mother, played by Holland Taylor, it seems like they'd have to be on call, because while he doesn't normally act unpredictably, there's a major sequence where he acts unpredictably, and the filmmakers are in a panic. They don't have control over everything. He sees their craft services, which he probably doesn't understand what it is because he wouldn't have seen it before. But he knows that it's something weird because it's behind where an elevator should be. There's cars doing loops around blocks that he starts to recognize the patterns, and he notices things. Because these people are on call, these people are there all the time. And like his mother would have to be invested in him, his wife would have to be invested in him, as if they were really his mother and his wife. And it's a weird sort of comment on reality, in that maybe these roles are just roles that everyone's playing every day. And if these are roles that we're just playing, how big, how thin is that veneer? I mean, if the Truman in your life suddenly starts acting strangely, do you panic and ask for help from the producers above? Like Meryl does? Or are you invested enough to want to fix the problem? Not just because you have to do your ads for your sponsors, or you have to earn your paycheck. I mean, there's no way that Hannah and Lewis, playing Marlon, his best friend, aren't invested. For example, there's a nice shout out to people over at Critical Role at Geek and Sundry. They play Dungeons and Dragons every week, and they have their characters they've been playing. These people have been playing now for about 3 years. And when one of their characters comes close to dying, it is an emotional experience in that moment. And all they're invested in is basically 1 day a week for a year now, and like 1 day a month for the 2 years before that. And they're invested at the point of tears and like panicking and heart racing. I don't get a sense in this movie that Marlon or Meryl are panicking. when Marlon is out leading the search party when Truman has disappeared. It seems more like he's just doing his job, doing his routine. And when he's getting fed dialogue from Christoph in, I guess, an earpiece, it seems like he shouldn't need it. Like he should be able to say these things. Like when he says, I would step in front of a traffic for you. He should mean it. First, George Gerbner, cultivation theory, has this thing called mean world syndrome. It's this idea that the more we watch like television news or TV shows where everything's solved with like violence, or we watch like cop shows, or seeing murders and people talking about murders every week, we start to get this idea that reality is more like the show. That reality includes all of this violence. Mean world syndrome. We think the world is mean because that is what we see all the time.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
The Truman Show has this interesting thing now. I'm going to call it polite world syndrome. The cynical version, even though I just called it polite world syndrome, I'm going to go cynical. The cynical version is that the extras in Sea Haven, in order to get paid more, because this is how being an extra works, you get paid more when you have lines, are polite. They say good morning to Truman, they say hello, they know his name, they get to know him, have a conversation, because that's their job. They're going to get paid more if they do it well. Also, Truman's interactions with the people close to him, his mother, his wife, his best friend, has been scripted. Or not scripted. Not scripted as in written down. Christoph has, as we see with Marlon, been feeding them dialogue. So, essentially, I referenced Dungeons and Dragons a few minutes ago. It's like Christoph is the DM, and Truman is the only PC in a world full of NPCs, if you get the reference. But imagine the world that watches The Truman Show. Gerbner and Gross, 1972, tell us that the substance of the consciousness cultivated by TV is not so much specific attitudes and opinions as more basic assumptions about the facts of life and the standards of judgment on which conclusions are based. Layman's terms, TV tells us how to think about the world. It's not just mean world syndrome, it's everything. If all we watch are sitcoms from the 50s where everyone's nice and, beavers like being polite to everyone and saying good morning to every neighbor, then that's how we're going to think of the world. That's how we're going to think of neighbors. People watching The Truman Show aren't necessarily getting that cynical notion of all the fakeness. They're watching Truman. They're watching him be polite to everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And they're watching all of the extras be polite to Truman. They're watching the world focus on one man. And it's the world. I mean, this is a highly rated show. Gerbner, 1978, tells us television had become the central cultural arm of our society. This is in 1978. I mean, imagine how much that has gone forward since then as we got more television and more formats for television with like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, Showtime Anytime. Bravo Now, Fox Now, NBC and ABC and CBS, CW, they all have their own apps that you can watch their shows anywhere, anytime. As long as you have a phone signal, which I think is pretty much everywhere on the planet nowadays. So what has that cultural arm done? What can it do? What can a movie do? What can a single TV show, if millions of people are watching it at the same time, do? Or imagine billions watching it. What does the Truman Show teach the people who watch it? I don't mean the movie. I do mean the movie, but I mostly mean the TV show. In the universe of the Truman Show, what does the audience think? What does the audience feel? Who is Truman Burbank? And this brings me to a big one. Truman Burbank as Christ figure. And I'm sure some of you just rolled your eyes at this, but trust me on this one. I wrote a paper on the cinematic Christ figure. I used the cinematic Christ figure as a sort of judging mechanism, I don't know how many times, in my blog for various movies. And the scale I'm about to use I call the Black Kozlovic scale of the cinematic Christ figure. The black is me, Robert Black, because I've used and adjusted the list over the course of the last few years. And Kozlovic is Anton Karl Kozlovic, who is written several times back in 2009, 2004, 2007, about the cinematic Christ figure. And you can't see it because it's out of frame. An entire binder devoted to the cinematic Christ figure. And, well, let's just go to the scale. Standard number 1. The Christ figure must be tangible. That's easy. 1 point. Must be the central figure of the story. Yes. 2 points. He must be an outsider. I'm forgetting Kozlovic's description for this exactly, but Truman is the only person who's real in a world where everyone is scripted and directed. I'm going to give him this point. He must be divinely sourced, which means someone else must have put him where he is and sent him on his mission. Christoph created Truman, put him in this dome, put him in these people's lives. Giving him that point. 4 for 4. He should have a miraculous birth. This one's interesting. I'm going to give Truman this point because his birth was, according to the film, the first live on television birth. I'm going to go with it. Because in the age of television, that's a miracle. He should have an alter ego. Not really. Truman has been Truman since birth. Can't give him that one. So, he is at, and I should explain this, some of these are half points, where they can give him a positive point, but they don't count toward the total. It's kind of weird, confusing. The ultimate score is out of 25, but there are actually about 30 standards. There should be, this is standard 6. So if you're counting, you might already be confused. This is standard 6. There must be a distinction between him being special and normal, appearing normal while being special. I'm going to give Truman that one as well. Because the world sees him, I mean, this is a television star. Who doesn't know he's a television star? I'm giving him that one. Standard 7. He should have a ring of regular associates. This one, I wouldn't give him this one. It doesn't mean that he has 12 disciples, but he should have a group of people that are always around him. He doesn't have this. He should be around the holy age. This is number 8. The holy age means that he's 33. Jim Carrey was, I believe, 36 when this film was made. So, or when this film came out. So he's about 34, 35 when it was made. I'm going to give this one. It's close enough. 9. The Judas figure. Actually, I might have to give him this one for his father coming in and trying to ruin things. This is where it gets subjective. People might score it differently than me, but next one, number 10, Mary Magdalene figure. Yeah. In terms of the sexually tagged one, it has to be references to sex, references to, to sex. And his wife keeps reminding him that she wants to have a baby. That's who she is. That's like, I think there's either implication or maybe someone says it outright that she's going to get a pay raise if she has a baby. I don't know why she needs a pay raise, because if you think about the reality of this, she's living with this guy. It's not like she has a life outside. 10.5, a Virgin Mary figure. This would fit Sylvia / Lauren. There's no sex. There's just her trying to be, she's the pure thing that didn't get scripted. She's the person who's trying to help Truman. She's above that. Number 11, John the Baptist figure. I'm gonna give this one to Marlon, because he is there cheering on Truman to like live his life, do his great desk job, because that's one of the things they do to coach him into staying where he is tell him how great his job is, even though he knows it isn't. I'll give it to him. You could also give it to Christoph, because he's the one who promotes Truman to the world. Number 12, Death and Resurrection, or the illusion of death and resurrection. Yes. And I don't mean the fact that when Truman disappears, there's rumors going around in public that he's dead. On the boat, they bring the storm down upon him at the end of the movie, and when the storm cuts out, he's laying, even in the cruciform pose, which we'll get to in a moment, appearing dead. And then he sits up. So I'm going to give him this one. 13's easy one, triumphalism. That his victory at the end is a triumph. The movie definitely treats it that way. It's a big deal. He's getting out. They show the audiences watching are celebrating. Number 14, service to lessers. This essentially means that he is serving other people and they don't even realize it. I think the people watching the show don't realize exactly what Truman is going through, especially at the end when he's just realized his entire life is fake. I'm going to give him this point. 15, willing sacrifice. He goes on down that boat, and when the storm comes, he does not turn back. That's sort of a willing sacrifice, but I'm hesitant to give him this point because the rest of his sacrifice, living this lie on this TV show, was not by choice. But then the sacrifice at the end is, so I'll give it to him. I'll be nice. 15.25, torture. No. 15.5, stigmata. No. 15.75, atonement. Ooh.
We've become bored with watching actors give us phony emotions. We're tired of pyrotechnics and special effects. While the world he inhabits is, in some respects, counterfeit, there's nothing fake about Truman himself.
There's the opening lines of the film. Christoph. I'm gonna have to give Truman this point. It's not about Truman making atonement for himself, but he is making atonement for the world. It's a weirdly shallow look at the world, about how we've gotten bored with TV and all that. We're tired of things that are phony, and he's fixing it for us. I'm going to give him the atonement point. Number 16, innocence. That's the idea that he's accused of something bad while being innocent. I can't really give him this one. I mean, yeah, I can. His wife accuses him of being mentally ill. She's trying to convince him that he's imagining all of this, and he's not. So yeah, he gets that one. 17 is that cruciform pose. (18) Cross associations. We never really see the mast of the ship in close-up. Yeah, I don't think I can give him this one. He gets the pose, but not the cross. 19, miracles and signs. No. I don't think so. 20, simplicity. As I said, Truman doesn't really watch TV. He watches one movie. He's simpler than his audience. He reads the paper. That's simple. He dresses like he's in the 50s. Well, so does everyone in Sea Haven. Their costumer, I think, is obsessed with the 50s. He buys fashion magazines to rip out pieces of a face to create a thing, but that's a separate thing. I'm going to give him this one. 21, poverty. No, I'm not going to give him this one. I mean, yeah, he can't quite afford to go to Fiji, but who can? You know? 22, Jesus garb. No. 23, blue eyes. No. And yes, the cinematic Christ figure is supposed to have blue eyes, even though if Christ were real, he would not have. 24, holy exclamations, as in some point in the movie, someone near the character says, Jesus Christ, or God, or... I forgot to write down if this happened.
I've been watching you your whole life. I was watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step.
Actually, with holy exclamations, maybe I should give him this point because his creator is named Christoph. Christ of, or a version of Christopher, which I believe means bearing Christ. So it's a little on the nose, deliberately, I think. Just like Truman, true man. It's on purpose. And this one's interesting. Number 25, someone with the initials JC. Truman Burbank obviously does not. However, he's played by Jim Carrey. I'm gonna give him that one. Final score on the screen. Yeah. Truman Burbank is a cinematic Christ figure by a long shot. That's one of the highest scores I've seen. And what does that mean for the audience that watches this show? What does that mean for the audience that watches this movie? The audience that watches his show, as I said, Polite World Syndrome. We're getting this thing. We're getting this thing where everyone maybe is nicer. Maybe the world outside that dome isn't so bad. Because everyone watches the Truman Show. It's a nice thought. That everyone gets together and celebrates this one life. And we're all better people for it. If you haven't seen the movie, and you're watching this, and you've made it this far, go see the movie. Watch it. It's on Netflix. Not that I'm shilling for Netflix.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
Sponsors again. See more movies. See this movie. See movies about good things, about good people. Try to fight off the mean world syndrome. Watch some happy things, some positive things. Throw in some negative stuff too, because you need reality, but have a good time. Bye.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.